Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. I clicked the button and I wasn't ready myself. That's no good. Hello, everybody. We have, well, you can see we have Yifei and Mr. Incognito himself and miscommunication. Very good. So I think we've got to start. It's not quite an elephant in the room, is it? It's a brand new drone. And I have sort of tried to avoid reading much or thinking much about it today because I wanted to try and have some genuine reaction to it when I saw it in the flesh tonight. So take it away, Canada.
How technical do we want to get into this?
Very technical.
Very technical.
We don't want the shiny, isn't it lovely, it's new. We want the hard facts. Because how long have you had the thing for and how much flying have you done with it?
Almost, actually another week. We had it since Tuesday just to do some initial testing. And we had it in collaboration with our local retailer. So the largest Canadian pro photo and video retailer called Vistec, which we get all of our pro camera gear from. And they also sell drones. So they were one of the largest DJI distributors in Canada. So luckily, we do all the drone testing for them. So since they got one of the first units, we were able to get one last week to go through testing. And we just had the live stream with DJI North America's representative along with Vistec this morning on the actual product launch. So I actually got quite a bit of my questions answered during the live stream this morning, which I can probably share a little more on the technical aspect today with everyone. So quick rundown. I mean, from the look of it, it looks more like the Mavic lineup. It didn't look much like the initial Mavic Air, if anyone had the initial Mavic Air before, which actually from my team, some of them had Mavic Air, and they actually liked the look. It looked a little different than the traditional Mavic lineup, right? I did like the initial look, but really at the end of the day, it's performance that matters. And really Mavic Air 2 is much better performance compared to obviously the original version 1. It's OcuSync 2 versus the Wi-Fi on the original one. And it's 4K 60 frames per second compared to both on the Mavic 2 Pro and the initial Mavic Air, both only does 4K 30p. So definitely this is a plus point for aerial shots because then you can slow it down really. You can slow it down to 24 frames per second, which is 2.5 times slower, which is great. Surprises was the 48 megapixel sensor because before getting this, we were suspecting the 48 megapixel was a software thing. We didn't think it was actually a 48 megapixel sensor. But actually, it is a 48 megapixel image sensor. What it does is the quad Bayer sensor, right? So it divides the pixels. So each pixel you get smaller, which means if you want to shoot 48 megapixels, you really need a well-lit scene. You can't do this if you don't have too much light. Or, for aerial, a lot of times we put on ND filter. So if you put on an ND filter, ND16, and you shoot 12 megapixels, it's great because when you use a 48 megapixel sensor to shoot 12 megapixel image, each pixel is a lot bigger. So you can actually work with a bit low light condition. But let's say you have the ND filter on, and then you need to take a 48 megapixel image. At that point, you don't have enough light. So we'd have to land, take down the filter, go back, and basically redo the shot. So that's the 48 megapixel image, as they call it. I mean, if we get real technical, it shoots D-Cine-like, which with a 265 H.265, which is great for post-production comparing to H.264 codec. So it does record better, more information, better quality with less, more compressed with less video size. So that's a good point. The 1080p, it shoots up to 240 frames per second. And from our initial testing, we still had a little more analysis to do, but it seems a little bit softer. And it seems the 4K 60 seems a little bit over sharpened. So those things, I mean, we still have to do a little more testing. That was just from the initial footage. Now, unfortunately, the unit we got seems to have some issues. It seems to be a defect because the other YouTubers or influencers who got their drones, it seems they were able to test kind of the highlights of the features, which is your HDR video that does your multiple exposure, right? So almost like you underexposed your proper exposure and then overexposed composed together. So it seems like it's working for the other YouTubers who got their units first, but on ours it didn't seem to work. Same thing with the active tracking and focus tracking, which is also a highlight of the feature. We weren't able to get it work. It seems to be a software. We suspect the units part of the navigation system is damaged because we had some issues with compass calibration. We had some issues with the obstacle avoidance when we first got the unit. So we're waiting for a new unit, and those features we're going to have to test once we get those to work in the new unit. From the camera side, the white balancing is the only thing that seems to have limited functions, because on the Mavic 2 Pro, you have presets, which is great if you have cloudy days or sunny days. But on this, it's through the DJI Fly app, the new DJI Fly app. So when you deal with white balancing, you can only select the auto, or you have to know the actual kelvins. It's only temperatures in kelvins. So there's no presets. You really have to know your numbers, basically. And the other feature for the camera is you're supposed to do 8K hyperlapse. Now, same thing, all the intelligent features on this didn't work, again, due to the defects. So we didn't get to test those, because hyperlapse is actually one of my favorites, because time lapse is what we used to do a lot before getting into drones. So it's one of my favorites. We didn't actually get to test. Those are the things we're going to have to find out with the new unit they're sending. I mean, overall, because this is on the DJI Fly app versus the DJI Go 4 app, so it seems the main difference is the Go 4 is the one level up. So you have a lot more controls for the camera settings. You can customize your sharpness, your saturation, your contrast, but on the Fly app, you can't adjust any of those settings. So to me, it's kind of two sides of the same thing you're looking at. Some of the people on my team that are super control freak, they say, well, I want to, adjust all the camera settings. But someone like me who's not that technical, I say, well, actually it's more simplified. Versus restricted. To me, it's more simplified. And if I don't do all of the post-production on dealing with 4K image, color grading, and all of that process, then using HDR and using simplified functions, it seems to work for me, right? So it's just, at the end of the day, when you look at the Mavic Air 2, it's the middle ground between Mavic Mini and the Mavic 2 Pro. And it kind of made sense to me on the overall product design, right? I mean, if you are the number one drone manufacturer in the world, then you want to cover, all the different segments of the market. This basically fills the gap between Mavic Mini and Mavic 2 Pro. Because we're seeing a lot of students come in to say, well, guess what? I don't fly drones every day, or I don't work with drones every day. I shoot with regular cameras, or have other job functions I have to deal with. And I want something that's better than Mavic Mini, but I've just not committed to Mavic 2 Pro for the pricing and for the workflow. So from manufacturer standpoint, that's where I see it's a product that basically meets kind of the gap in the middle, right? I mean, personally, there were some good features that we were really hoping to test, which we didn't. Like I said, on the more of the focus tracking, active tracking, hyperlapse 8K, so all of the intelligent flight modes we haven't gotten to test yet. So really, at this point, I haven't really, had that wow moment with this drone. It's just, okay, here's all the technical features we got from the manufacturer on paper, and we've gone through kind of our initial impression stage of testing. But I mean, for our team, we usually do at least 3 stages of testing. We have initial impression, then we have spending at least a month's time with it. Because when you have a unit, right, when you have any new equipment, you need to spend some time to really see consistency. So consistency is also key. And then our third stage is testing is usually 6 to 8 months down the road. Because let's face it, right now, doesn't matter DJI or anyone who releases a new drone, or anyone in the computer or tech side, anyone releases a new piece of equipment with software, it comes out almost as, the beta plus version. And then they keep on getting user feedback to make the firmware or software updates to really hit kind of a balanced point, right, between the hardware and the software. So usually what we see is when a new product comes out, it takes 6 to 8 months to kind of balance, to find that balance point between the software and the hardware. So this is just the beginning of the process. I just haven't seen Mavic Mini. To me, it was okay. It was actually great because it was under 250, and for under 250, it really over delivered, right? And Mavic 2 Pro we used to use Phantom 4 V2 a lot, and Mavic 2 Pro was more compact, so it was like very different products. With this, like I said, I haven't hit the wow moment yet. Right now, it's kind of just getting to know it, and yes, the features are there as promised by the manufacturer. The product line, it makes sense. I just haven't found those shining points that makes me love it yet.
That's interesting.
Or maybe I won't.
Oh, that's a little bit too honest for this industry, and giving a review thing is, I'm not sure that's allowed to be a little bit honest with it. So how heavy is it then? As I say, because I knew you were coming with this, I've deliberately kept out my way.
I believe it's 570 grams. I believe
570. That's an interesting
grams more than the previous one.
Yes.
And that's going to fit. Where's that going to fit in the world? Obviously, well above 250. But under a kilo. Under
A1 in the UK. Yeah, it would fall into the A1 category technically, but it isn't A1 certified at this time. A comment that was brought up was that they're going to fall under the new certifications, and it's way too early for anyone to be manufacturing under the
under
EU.
that. Yes.
Yeah. So technically A1, but.
And what version? You've obviously got the American, the FCC version, I'm guessing there.
We got the European version.
You got the European there.
We received the European version. I was really hoping to test the ADS-B. That was one of the questions I've asked today. So hopefully the new unit will has ADS-B. Especially in Canada, there's been a new proposed amendments on the limited beyond visual line of sight. So really, I mean, because we kind of get involved a little bit with a regulatory perspective. So what I was hoping for is test out the ADS-B. I mean, regardless of what it actually lives up to be, in the eyes of regulation, it's a safety feature, right? So for us,
have all the testers, but
sorry, Gary, is it an hardware issue or only software? So
ADS-B, I believe, is hardware. I believe it's the actual ADS-B receiver. So if you receive the drone currently without the ADS-B function, it's not going to be improved down. It's not like a software improvement you can get later on.
I have seen people. I've seen people
for DJI. Sorry, because.
It does if this one hasn't arrived fully featured. It seems like, oh, quick, let's bang some European ones out the door, quick, because we've got to have a launch, and they're not quite ready, but we'll bang them out the door because we said we're going to do it.
Pretty much every review model was a European one that was sent out because of the hardware limits.
Because the hardware is from UAvionics, isn't it? It's UAvionics.
We don't know
components. We don't know actually. I mean, I don't know. All I know is the parts are limited.
Not on the Mavic.
I thought we did.
No,
I thought we did. Not on the Mavic. Are they doing their own silicon?
Possibly
some kind of SDR, software-defined radio that could. Still missing the firmware to do it.
That's trivial.
I would have made it an SDR because then you can basically follow any standard changes that come along later. You can basically do anything with it instead of making a specific piece of hardware.
That's what all those pings are, aren't they? So
it appears to be custom sort of hardware. There is a shortage of that hardware currently. All the review units went out with European. Pretty much.
That's what I heard as well. Yeah. And all the reviews we've seen that so-called show the ADS-B feature, they're just they don't. They're just stock footage provided by a manufacturer.
Now, as it stands, anyone in the US that purchases will get an ADS-B equipped model. However,
that's
European
what we heard.
Purchasers will not at this time. and that's where there's a bit of ambiguity, because it looks like the wording that's been used, and it is buried in a lot of the press if you go looking for it, that there is a hardware shortage. Current shipping will only go to the US for ADS-B. However, European models will currently not have it. But what this could mean is when supply comes back in 3 months, European models will also get it. But that then ends up meaning early adopters are getting an aircraft without a feature, and longer adopters, the guys who hold back, don't. And look, I think we've all expanded. I think we're all as pessimistic about ADS-B on here as anyone. I don't think we all think none of us think it's the magical
That's why
answer.
I wanted to, that's why I wanted to test it. I was really interested in testing it.
None of us think it's the magical answer, but
it is if all manned aircraft, flipping comply and start using it or something similar, then it's part of the answer, and then we can get out of the way automatically. But it annoys me that people keep considering that it is something new and gee whiz, look at this fancy technology that's going to save the world. We've been banging on about how we don't like it for years. But people, and they're saying, well, how will the aircraft see me with this ADS-B? It's like, no, you don't understand this at all, do you? You don't understand.
There are some other things with it. It will have support for the smart controller in the future. That isn't here yet, but the firmware will be coming for the DJI smart controller. However, it will not be getting compatibility with any of the FPV goggles. So guys who want the FPV goggles, you're out of luck. Unfortunately, they're not.
I actually asked that question today because we have the racing goggles from DJI that we use with the Mavic 2. Really with the goggles, it's also, I find it's 50-50. 50 of half of the people love it, and half of the people, like myself, I can't use it. One, it makes me a bit dizzy. Two, I'm a bit of a control freak. When I can't see the peripheral vision on the sides, it drives me crazy. I'm just thinking there's going to be a bird flying close to it, and I can't see that. So it's some of the pilots on my team who are more adventurous, they love it. Or someone like me who just can't work with it.
Yeah.
But what DJI said is the goggles won't work with the Mavic Air 2, but also someone on my team said it's Oculus Sync as well, because it works with the Oculus Sync 2, so it should work. So we're actually going to test it in the next couple of weeks to figure out if we can actually get it to work.
There is a workaround. You can do it via HDMI, via the smart controller when that gets compatibility. Yep. There is a bit of a backstory to this, is that goggles didn't work particularly well with the Mavic 2 either. For the guys who had them with the Mavic 2, it dramatically reduced the range and there was constant breakup problems. And I think what DJI have probably said is, look, we're not going to tempt luck any further on that one. Technically, if it works with one, it should work with the other.
So here's the thing. One of the highlights of the features is 10 kilometers range, right? Really for Mavic Air 2. I mean, we haven't tested it because we need to find high ground and then basically drive 10 clicks with the controller to see if that actually works, since we can't legally fly 10 kilometers away. So that part we haven't tested it. But what we did find out is this is the new controller, right? Now, the problem is this is a fixed position antenna on this controller, and they're all directional antennas. So if you're not
is that the antennas out? Is that it?
Yes, they extend out. So it's the holder, it's your smartphone holder as well as the antenna on the top. It's fixed position.
Are they behind your phone there, as it were, or just the bits at the end, just on the top?
Yeah. So this is, on the smart controller or on your traditional DJI controllers, you can change the angle, right? The antennas actually stand. And for directional antennas, that means depending on your facing of the drone, you can adjust it to adjust your better signal direction. And unfortunately with this, number one, you can't adjust. This is fixed position. Number two, your phone, same thing, it's fixed. You can't actually adjust the angle for your phone. It.
So to adjust your phone, you're doing this. So
yes,
in range, out of range, in range, out of range.
So I think that's the solution. Is basically I think that's one of the reasons they released the smart controller to be compatible with this, because then you can work the smart controller. I mean, what I liked was the the phone, which is your screen, your control screen, sitting on the top. That was the smart design. But the antenna is what I didn't like, because we actually lost a video signal a couple of times because I was flying around and actually forgot to turn, the direction antenna with it. Yeah.
What sort of wizardry do you think is in there, Bruce, if anything at all? Because that doesn't look like capable of wizardry, does it?
No. Obviously, they're using small patches for the transmitter there, which will make them pretty directional. And well, I don't know, but I find it ironic that the country that's demanding a new standard, a new technology for remote ID, gets the ADS-B. Why not just send the ADS-B to Europe? Because you're going to have to do something different for America anyway.
Yeah. Well, there's and I'm afraid, and I've thought this from the original Mavic, that it is a thing only a mother could love. The Phantoms, I thought, were a decent shape and a decent design. I've always thought the Mavics look horrible, and I don't understand why. They look horrible.
Phantom 4 looks like I don't know.
But Mavic is more aerodynamic, right? Because Phantom is more boxed.
Yeah, I always loved the Mavic Air.
It's not.
It was fantastic.
Yeah, but the Phantom, if the legs get in the way when you're panning around and things, and you better.
Yes, I know.
Louis, Paraffin what do you think?
But it's easier to catch the Phantom than the Mavic.
Yes.
But it just doesn't have that zing. It doesn't have that sort of. I suppose it is a function of form, a function of a form. But I'm surprised that they're going with that. Obviously, it works. I'm utterly wrong, which apparently I can be wrong sometimes. Apparently,
it's a whale. If you look at it, it's like a whale. It's like a little baby whale. They look like, or a little. It's
a little bit, yeah.
I think. It's interesting. It's an interesting launch. I think for the money, it's actually massively spec'd. I think the problem is we've had that many leaks. We knew what this was Friday. We pretty much had everything leaked out Friday. And I just think it's hard to get excited about a mid-range aircraft. And I actually think it's really good value. The spec is very, very good. And in fact, it gives Autel big problems. It gives Autel massive problems because it's cheaper. It's not as good. It's not as good on object avoidance. It's not as good at tracking, and it's not as good at video. However, it's substantially cheaper and it's almost as good. And if you're talking $1,200-$1,300 compared to $799, and for an extra $160, they'll send you the Fly More pack, which has extra batteries. So for less than $1,000, you've got yourself, I think, 3 batteries, you've got ND filters, and you've got a pack that's ready to go without spending any more money. And for Autel, whilst it isn't as good, it is where the smart money is probably going to go right now. And it's available. It's in stores. It's in dealers.
So are we seeing 3DR Solo V3 or GoPro Karma V2?
Yeah, I think it's again. I think it's. I think it is the same. Now, Autel survive. At the end of the day, they've survived longer than anyone. They've been around long enough now. They keep knocking away at it and they keep planning. I've been badgering them this week. I've been trying to get an answer on if this thing is actually CE certified or not, and I cannot get an answer. It's got a CE mark on its base, but that doesn't actually mean it's CE certified.
Can do China exports.
Well, it looks like a genuine one, to be fair. It doesn't look like the Chinese export one, but at the moment, we have dealers in the UK trying to sell them, yet as far as I'm concerned, they're not CE certified. Therefore, they're not legal for use. And again, Autel's biggest problem is they don't have many dealers. In fact, I emailed their European headquarters and the email bounced back as does not exist. And that was the email taken off their own website. So when you're coming up against issues like that, it doesn't inspire you with confidence.
It's the overall, it's the overall organization. Because anytime, it's like buying a car, right? You're buying the after sale service as well. And from Autel, definitely they need that side to improve. And I haven't seen, I was really looking forward to Autel's thermal camera, because that's the one it's supposed to have really good quality. So I'm really interested in testing that, but we haven't seen release of the actual thermal unit. 8K I don't know, who, the thing is, you have to be really professional wanting to use the 8K camera and shoot 8K videos. Just imagine how much it's going to cost in the post system to actually handle, processing 8K. That's going to be challenging to begin with. So I'm not sure where the competition actually goes for, Autel 2, basically Evo 2 versus the Mavic Air 2, because the Mavic Air 2 is the lower level from Mavic 2 Pro. And the Autel Evo 2 seems to be competing with more of the Mavic 2 Pro. So, I mean, last year, we've been hearing so many different rumors on just exactly what is the new DJI drone coming out, right? There was rumors about first it was rumors about Phantom 5, and then it was rumors about Mavic 3, and then rumors about Inspire 3.
Yeah.
I know,
That's not
and it ended up being Mavic Air 2. I was kind of surprised. I wasn't getting it at first, and then when I saw it, it kind of made sense. Yeah, it fills up the gap. Like I said, from product line perspective, it made sense. And I said it today in the live stream. I said, for most of my professional pilots, they prefer to have two drones. They prefer to have the Mavic 2 Pro and then have a Mavic Mini as the backup. But I also get a lot of requests from students who don't fly that regularly. And this basically fills that gap. It's someone who doesn't want to spend the money for Mavic 2, but also don't want, the Mavic Mini. Then this really fills up the gap.
It does, and it is interesting. It doesn't have to be better; it just has to be better value, and I think that's where they've won time and time again.
Not only that, Ian. The thing is, they make it very easy to purchase. If you want to try to purchase an hotel, where do you go? And you can buy a DJI. I think you still can on the Apple Store. Or you go to their website and they put it at your doorstep in 48 hours, coming from China. Come on, that's...
And where would we buy it again in Canada? Where is it we're going in Canada to buy it?
It's a store called Vistec. So
that's where we go in Canada.
It's the pro photo and video store here. And to me, it's funny. We were about to release the new YouTube video on things you should consider before buying a DJI drone. And one of the comments I made in there was, I prefer buying from local retailers or local dealers. Just to me, if I'm going to give money to someone, I'd rather give it to someone I know rather than going on DJI's website.
Not only that, but the thing is, in general, if you want to purchase something from DJI, they make it the buying.
It's very convenient. Yeah.
No, they make the buying experience very easy. Either by a local dealer or on their own website. So you have the choice, and that's not only the price. Because come on, you're spending 1,000 or 1,500. That's okay. It's 50%, but it's a significant purchase for most people. So where do you want? Do you have to jump all those hurdles to purchase something? You really must want it very badly. And the other guys just make it click here.
Yeah. And you've just made my point, Louis. I've been trying to get hold of Autel for nearly a month. And I've tried the European. I went through support, and it just shows. I could have put one tweet on Twitter, and I would have had the answer from DJI in minutes to what my questions were, and if I wanted to speak to anyone. I've been trying to speak to Autel for weeks, and I can't get any sense anywhere, and it just shows that is the problem they've got.
But also remember, I remember the times when it was Phantom 2 and then Phantom 3. And Phantom 3, I think we hit the worst DJI customer service ever when Phantom 3 Pro came out, because they had, a huge volume increase. Yeah. And that's when they had to go through the whole kind of growing pain, right? Yeah. So it just shows different growing stage of the two different companies.
I was lucky to be involved in some things back then with them. And I remember they moved their warehouse in the US 3 times in a year because of the expansion, and yes, the customer service was bad, but the expansion after the Phantom 3 Pro, I remember that launch, and it was enormous. It was, the sales on that thing were just crazy.
Because it was a huge performance difference. I remember just jumping. It was a milestone jumping from Phantom 2 to Phantom 3. It actually worked. It was holding position. Like, that was a huge milestone for us.
Well, if you look, the Vision Plus was Wi-Fi. It had that horrible camera, and you went from an aircraft that had, you know, a cheap camera, which was a no-name Chinese unknown sensor. No one knew who it was. It was no names, and they then moved it. They moved Lightbridge in from the Inspire 1. They moved the Sony sensor in. They moved the Umbrella chipset in, and suddenly what you had was a flying GoPro. And that was a GoPro quality camera fixed to the drone. And it's interesting to see that little decision they made to fully integrate cameras paid off so much if we look at the problems other manufacturers had back then.
Wait, but nobody coming in now would consider that they didn't come with cameras and it wasn't all integrated. You wouldn't consider that was the case.
I think that, and we've discussed this here already. They dropped the drone business. They're just going after the camera business. They put the best camera they can, or they want, not what they can, on a moving platform. So it's a camera business with a different perspective.
And that's going to grow. Trust me, there's a lot more to come on that. And people forget, you know, DJI are pretty much number one in the handheld gimbal market. They're pretty close to being number one in the mobile camera market with the Osmo.
With the Osmo
Pro. Yeah. There's no one else doing that stuff as good as them at the moment, and there's so much more to come. The Ronin S, the Ronin SC have been outstanding products, and I think drones are a big part of the business, but they're certainly not what the company is about, and it's going to be interesting. So it's funny you were saying about the rumors of aircraft, and this one's been known about for a little bit of time. It's quite funny. I don't think we'll see a Mavic 2 for about another 3-4 months. I honestly don't think they have any rush at all right now. They don't have to do anything for Autel. This now will just tick along, take any sales out of their, take any wind out of their sails that they need to, and then probably August, September time, we might start seeing a launch of a Mavic 2, 3.
I'm not sure, Ian. I think they're waiting for Unique to come up with something so they can do the same stunt.
What company's that? What company's that?
They can do the same stunt as they did with Autel.
Well,
so Unique announces and says it's going to chip
something,
and they.
Well, I don't know
but
how
the
true.
initial I think the most recent rumor before Mavic Air 2 launch was there was going to be 2 new consumer drones, one now and one some point in the summer, but there's supposed to be a new enterprise unit. So that's the one I'm also looking forward to see what happens with the new enterprise unit.
300, no, whatever it is.
Yeah, but the enterprise unit, I think it's a different.
It's a different game, huh? Yeah, there's supposed to be a new matrix.
No, but the thing is, the 210 caused so many problems. Problems with the batteries, the larger batteries that are not aircraft flight safe or authorized. So they got themselves into a hole. They have to come out of that. So we need the professional drones need less than 100 watt-hours batteries so they can fly. And we need batteries that don't have humors, just to be polite. Don't have tantrums.
And stay on.
The thing is, the thing is, they got themselves, and the enterprise market is perhaps a market where they got margins, and where they got margins, and selling an M210 must be the equivalent of selling 5 Mavics
plus,
at least,
at least, and the cost isn't much different. Let's be honest. If you look if you look at what the cost of the larger drones is, it's only carbon fiber and plastic. But at the end of the day, that is largely all. It's their IP that costs the money, and really the larger.
And the camera sensor is mostly the camera sensor.
We have camera sensor.
We have clients who use the thermal version on the Matrix 210, mostly your solar panel clients, and they were fairly happy with inspecting using just the thermal on the Matrix 210, because on the enterprise level, it's the value you create, right? If you actually really help to improve efficiency and deliver results, then it creates a lot more value for the enterprise users. Then they're willing to spend the money. I've seen clients who kept buying, like they kept adding a new Matrix 210 every 3-4 months for every one of their kind of solar panel sites, just because, the pros basically outweigh the con. They're still saving more money with all of the issues.
And it's better to buy a new one than to wait for repairs or service from DJI. That's another completely different topic.
Oh yes. Yeah. But no, it looks to have been a good launch. It's going to be interesting to see where things end up. The pro guys are hanging back.
Saw it.
Yeah.
For those people that saw it in the world at 9 o'clock. Oh, did you?
I got up.
Yeah, well, someone's got a life.
Someone had to order it.
Oh, right. You're in different time zone. I forgot. Yeah, for us, it was 9 o'clock. It's funny. As soon as the clock turned, you just see all of these new videos hitting YouTube. Yeah. And the one feature I'm really interested in testing is the APAS 3.0 with the focus and the active tracking, because one of the guys I watched on YouTube, Ifanado, he was actually walking through the streets. I don't know if you saw, he had trays, really tight, narrow streets with trays with the sidewalk. And the Mavic Air 2 was actually following him, through the obstacle avoidance. And that was one of the questions today I asked to DJI. I said, you only have forward, backward, and bottom sensors. You don't have side sensors, not like the Mavic 2 Pro, you have 360 sensors, right? So I was saying, how do you actually do obstacle avoidance and actually mapping the area and actually moving around objects to do that? Because we didn't get to test it. And they said it's an algorithm. Is part of the way that the algorithm is written. So they actually didn't need the side sensors for basically the Mavic Air 2 to do that. So I guess we'll find out when we get a new unit to actually test it. I'm not sure if I'm as adventurous, to do this on the public streets. I'm probably going to go to our test site to do this in the trade area. I probably don't want to head to the public streets to do it. But that's the one I'm really interested in, because that's the competition with Skydio 2, which we're still waiting.
They're having a little pop at Skydio there, are they, in the video? So will that be real, I wonder? Will that be real?
Yeah, we're still waiting.
Through proper trees. I'm going to watch that video next. It's all very well avoiding a few branches. What about going through a forest?
It's interesting. The Autel has been very good at that, far better than I thought. I think where the Skydio really takes off is not forwards. What you will see with a lot of this object avoidance on these aircraft is they're getting much better at following you forward. What the Skydio can do is take itself through a building out the other side and do that backwards, sideways, upside down if it could fly. And I think Skydio's biggest problem is they just can't get them out. They can't make it.
But the concern with the Skydio sensors was that the actual obstacle avoidance sensors, I think there were 6 of them.
There's cameras, Yes,
the cameras, they have to be calibrated to the T.
Yes.
And my concern was they're targeting the construction industry. And if you're seeing how equipment is being used on construction sites, how actual users, your average Joe users are going to keep those cameras fully calibrated. That's the question. Because if they don't, then you have issues with obstacle avoidance. So that part,
it really depends
practical environment yet to be seen.
It really depends a little on how well, I'm not sure what DJI is using, but some kind of SLAM they have, and how well they have those obstacle avoidance cameras and the aperture of the obstacle avoidance cameras, so they can create a map of the environment. So that's a way to do it, kind of what Skydio does, but in a more restricted way.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I think Skydio's issue is they can't get it out. They're out of production again at the moment. Hopefully they can start soon. They just can't supply enough of these. And it's probably COVID's not helped them one little bit.
No, on our team, we have 2 people ordered Skydio, and they were supposed to get their unit, I believe, a month ago. and now they're still saying waiting for production.
Yeah, we're supposed to be getting one as well, and similar, same, and it's bad. Oh no, I shouldn't have said that because they're not actually shipping them outside of North America, and I live in California now.
Yes.
Now I've moved. It's coming to us via various means. With this Skydio, I just feel perhaps we haven't seen enough of them in the wild to really know. We don't really know, do we? And I don't. But it looks great.
If you look at the groups, the forums, and everything, the numbers are low. Do you know what I mean? You can just tell. Roughly how many people are getting them, and you're just seeing one or two users who are in very early. And as you say, we're not able to see the mass. There's been a few incidents. There was that one that landed in the lake, and they've done a software update to help that. At the end of the day, these things will happen, and they need these things to happen to improve their software. At the end of the day, you can't improve things if things don't go wrong. It's just they need to start getting them out in numbers. They really do. They really do.
They have a production problem. Scalability problem, and that's the problem. And they also have the problem that DJI does not have a large dealer network.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's true. So all in all, and Geeksvana said earlier about ADS-B in the States because it's all aircraft are fitted, but not all aircraft are fitted with ADS-B in America. In fact, it's a terrible rollout of a 1990s technology that shouldn't be in the world anymore. But anyway, other than that,
it's perfectly fine.
Other than that, it's perfectly fine. It's not easy to spoof at all. If you have a unit and a copy of X-Plane, you can't inject traffic in the sky as simply as connecting it to the unit. No, you can't do that at all. ADS-B is okay, and it would be okay if all aircraft were fitted with it. It would make it a lot better. It's interesting that they haven't sent any out that were of that model.
I think stock is that short. I honestly think they're that short of the hardware. And we don't know who they're using. I think there was always an assumption it was Ping. Obviously, the Profi used Ping in the Cube. I'm not aware of any stock issues for those guys. They
probably can't make because they can't manufacture their various bits because they're in America. They'll be locked down.
But perhaps they don't have the numbers that DJI requires, so they don't have problems. How many do they sell? 5, and at the same time, DJI is selling 5,000.
Well, the in is only it's as Bruce has alluded to, it's an SDR. It's a fancy SDR, single frequency, and you wonders why with the OcuSync radio exactly how that all works. How you can't just have a little bit of extra silicon.
That's why I think that's and hence my question a while ago, if it would be an hardware add-on or just a software issue, because it doesn't make sense for DJI to produce 2 hardware versions of the same drone.
I don't think they will they? They'll just roll out.
Yeah, but does not make sense. Does not make economical sense. It makes for them. I think it makes sense to have one version of the hardware and the different firmwares.
They'll just have left the board out. It'll just be the little board won't be there, won't be plugged in. There's not a separate version. It's just a version with a bit left out.
Well, if you look at
piggyback boards or something, but I'm not sure.
On the Mavic 2, for instance, because remember the Dual has ADS-B ASense built in already, and actually all of the Mavic 2s have the silkscreen on the PCB already. It's just not populated. So if you look on the main board on the top on the Mavic 2, there's an empty area of where the ADS-B goes, and it'll be the same. They do have a habit. They jump between this different hardware. With the Mavic Mini, there are 2 distinct versions with 2 completely different Wi-Fi chipsets. Whereas they don't do it.
That's different. That's evolution of production, where they evolve the production.
No, that's for Europe and US. That is for Europe and US. The European one is different to the US. However, for this line, OcuSync is the same across the board. There's no difference in the OcuSync hardware globally.
So there's not the 25 milliwatt issue versus.
No, it's all software.
Yeah.
But they did do it differently in the Mavic Air Mini, and I think the reason for that is the Europe has the dual band version, the USA doesn't, and it was the cost. I think they probably, on such a low margin, it was worth not fitting the chipset at that point.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we know this will be. Sorry, go ahead, Louis.
No, isn't it the other way? US can have 2.4 and 5.8, and Europe only 2.4. I don't remember exactly.
At the end of the day, we know that this product will be a tidy product. It'll work well, and they've obviously got. And at the end of the day, DJI are kind of driving the consumer market, aren't they? This is DJI's idea of how your product set should look. This is it, and they rule the world. So
well, it's they keep on rolling that wheel because they have the large consumer market. They collect enough data so that they can actually improve the hardware and software performance going forward. This is what's making it difficult for the other manufacturers, right? Because they don't have the data, and right now, who controls the data controls basically the technology.
But we must hit a point where enough is enough in all of these things. I don't think we can be very far away from it in the consumer drone world, because you've already discussed, someone has mentioned in the comments, you hit 4K, that's hard to edit, 8K is really hard to edit, and who uses that? So for a consumer fit, there'll come a point. I mean, you could certainly argue that 10 kilometers is a long way for something to go. That seems like it's going to be very interesting to see with those, because people are going to do it. They're going to say it says 10 kilometers on the box, and they're going to have the thing behind them when they're flying with those antennas, and they're going to say that wasn't 10 kilometers.
It says maximum, though, doesn't it? Doesn't say you're going to get. Yeah.
And to me, it just means the signal is really strong. And it's interesting because our security cams outside of the house is on Wi-Fi signal. So when we took this unit out, and actually the whole Mavic lineup, when we actually took them out for testing, it actually jammed our security cam's Wi-Fi signal. Yeah. That's how strong the signal actually is.
Oh my God, another market for DJI.
A little cat burglar tip. If you know that someone's using Wi-Fi for their security cams, take a Mavic with you to jam the signal.
You can fry eggs on the antennas. It's a fantastic feature.
And it's the cause of all of our problems. You're going to have to burn the remote controller to save us from 5G, because it's clearly 5G.
Will it burn the virus?
Burn everything.
Yeah.
Not as well as disinfectant. No.
But I can't wait till Ian gets hold of one of these units and he breaks a controller. Then we can have a look at the antennas.
I fixed it. So go away.
He bodged it.
Actually, Bruce is right. I bodged it. Hey, Bruce, but it blood works.
Because I'll be very disappointed if that's just a pair of flipping dipoles and not some special electrical multi-phase patch, super duper witchy gadget.
It'll be just patch antennas. That's all it'll be. It'll be patches in it. That's what it'll be.
And I'm amazed that DJI is going out there saying, "Oh, we've got this safety feature, this AirSense, this ADS-B system. We're safety first." But we let people go to 10K beyond visual line of sight, which is totally illegal. How does this work? How do they tell you these things?
It does when you think about it, doesn't it? It does spring up that, it'll fly for 34 minutes and it'll go 10 kilometers. But it's got 34 minutes.
Yeah, 34 minutes. We got 28 minutes out of it in wind that was gusting to almost 40 kilometers an hour. So it wasn't bad. And, you can see the little drone struggling, but the footage was actually fairly stable.
That's that long, it gets boring. Trust me. It
does get boring. You get bored. I know. I mean, majority of the testing, a lot of people think testing is fun, but really proper testing is just routine work, right? Because you have to hit certain number of flights doing exactly the same thing to get the mean, average on the flight time or different performance. It does get super boring.
Well, that That's an impressive number, isn't it? That is an impressive number. I mean, remember, we all started between 3 and 6 minutes is what the flipping things were flying back in the day. I mean, that is...
And the old one was 18 minutes. You got 15. So it has
Mavic,
doubled.
Mavic Air?
18,
Air 1?
17, yeah, Air 1 was 17 or 18, I think, officially.
So,
and it was about 15.
It was under 20.
Yeah.
And something that we've been watching, these new drones come up, and this is a question for Bruce. They've all been increasing flight times, and is it only on more efficient electronics or some aerodynamic improvements on propellers? What's your take on that, Bruce?
I think it's a combination of all of it, and getting weight down is the big factor. If you can reduce your weight by 10%, you dramatically increase your flight time for a given amount of energy. But also we got, I think we're going to see a massive shift to lithium-ion packs from lithium polymer.
I was going to ask, is it LiPo or lithium ion?
This is LiPo. Mavic Mini is lithium ion, I believe.
Yeah, okay. Wow, that's some flight time. That's pretty amazing.
And I'd actually argue they probably use more power now in standby than they've used for a long time. If you think how much heat they kick out, obviously what goes in must come out, and these things cook themselves on the deck these days. So, as you say, it can only really be weight. It is amazing to think how quickly we've jumped past 30-minute mark.
Yeah. But it's not only weight.
No.
There must be some improvements on the ESCs.
Yeah.
And I believe the bigger improvements are also on the propellers. Because I
can't quite see it. Are they those funny sort of Q-tip? They are, aren't
they? Look like they are,
yeah.
Is it very quiet? Because obviously noise is a waste.
It is very quiet.
Yeah.
It is more efficient. Yeah.
Yeah, the first one was like a
efficiency, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And usually the propellers are one of the points that people, especially the FPV flyers like this guy, usually don't have some dings on the propellers, and that can be quite an effect on the flight time and efficiency of the flight at the end of the day.
I remember we used to send the wooden propellers tips and put them on the balancing post.
Still do that. Thank you. We still not with drone propellers, but yeah, we still do that.
One thing I think you're going to see more of in future are shrouded props, because you get the coanda effect on the lip of the duct, and you can actually get significantly more efficiency when you shroud your props. The downside is, of course, if you've got any wind, it's a complete waste of time. But if you want maximum flight times with minimum, and you've got minimum wind, adding a duct can significantly improve the performance. You reduce your tip losses on the propellers, and you get the lip lift as well, which is like having a wing attached.
Bruce, and what's the aerodynamic effects of those shrouds when you're flying? Don't they increase the CX of the drone?
Yeah, if you're going to do any amount of forward flight, or as I say, if you're flying in wind, then they will have an effect. But if you're just doing basically hovering, positioning, camera positioning, you're not moving around much, they can have a dramatically large effect on improving performance.
Okay, we will be waiting for your next Bruce CAD video on koala efficiency.
No, that's Australia.
I suppose the next question is how long before we get active type of props or active type of areas around the props where you have, an area where that can expand and contract and change, isn't it? Because that's the next evolution of this, is how far do we keep going until we get all of the efficiency we can, isn't it?
I find a lot of my props contract on landing.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, there comes a point where it's diminishing returns, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's no point fiddling around. Just get another battery out and go again. That's very interesting. I suppose we should talk about something else. I don't know what if I. So I've deliberately avoided hearing about this. I'm not going. Oh, I am with the flight time. That's maybe. Oh, put that thing away. He's shilling for these things.
He's got his unicopter out again. What did you do with that unicopter, Louis?
Yeah.
Have you heard anything about Unique in the USA? Because I've heard they're shut down. and I don't know how true it is or not. But I've
Shut
heard
down, gone. Nothing's come across my bow of that nature.
How do you steal a unique drone? Unique up on it.
Yeah, well, you nick it, don't you?
Yeah, you nick it. Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Now I've heard they've shut down. It's been slowly spreading through the forums, and they are not reopening. So it seems something is going on.
It wouldn't
The only
surprise
thing
me.
I've seen of is that Typhoon H, wasn't it? Has they put anything out since then? I mean, they've been very low profile, certainly in this part of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a long. Typhoon H has been a really old aircraft. It's been a long time.
See if I can find it. It was creeping through one of the forums because people had tried to get hold of them as part of the COVID-19 thing, and they were told they won't be reopening. They've shut down permanently. I was like, oh.
Well, they might be moving their sales just to overseas land and not bothering with the support directly in North America. Now, Louis, are you trying to grab our attention with that? Is there a particular reason why you are playing with your chopper?
No, just fiddling around. Sorry, I was just fiddling around and make you jealous.
You know exactly, jolly well right, that's exactly what I am, and I exactly want one as well. So shame. Now you see that but I suppose that's just showing my peccadillos. I'm more interested in that than I am the new DJI thing.
Yeah,
but there we are.
Yeah, I was just looking through my contacts because I believe someone on my contacts list is the unique marketing person in US, and I don't see any updates from them, so don't know what's going on.
Yeah, well, the market's in a funny place all around, isn't it? I don't know if I said it last week, but the number of people that have been contacting me saying we need to buy 2,000 drones to do this and 1,000 to do this and 999 to do this, and we're going to change the world with them, and we've got lots of money and everything's going to be great because of the emergency. It's just gone through the roof. It's gone mad.
Just seems to me also.
Everybody is trying to be like the French government, buying all those drones.
Oh, which ones? Which ones we're talking about?
They had 3 models. One that will be the small feedback drone. One that seems like an attack drone, and the other that looks like an M200 drone. So they have categories, so they more or less fit these specs.
And in the UK has pushed back its regulations, I think, Ian, a little bit.
Yeah, we've had about 2 or 3 things. Everything in the UK has been pushed back a period. Commercial operators have been given a bit more space. I need to try and understand this myself a bit more because my renewal is due in June. So May for me is the time where I'm going to start looking at rewriting the ops manual from scratch again. If I'm hoping it's nothing like last year's changes because it was painful. However, there are some
more copy paste for you, Ian.
More copy paste of the ANO, and no, I wrote mine from scratch. I hand on heart did write mine myself. No template, no nothing. That's why it's so bloody awkward because I've overcomplicated it. I stripped 10 pages out last year, and it was still full of fluff. So I need to look at it. But yes, so the UK drone regulations have been pushed back, as have the European. So nothing is now taking place till at least September, I think it is at this stage. Nothing even remotely has been said around this because obviously the last news we had in the UK was that MP went, oh yeah, we might just leave and not be involved in any of this.
Yeah.
So we're all a bit you have NQEs though this week, some very good NQEs I'll add as well. There's some great guys, but they're offering the COFC course online now. You can take it for £300. I do still feel very uncomfortable taking a course that for a permission that might not exist in the future. And whilst there's part of me that sort of
I'll do that course for 299 quid.
I think all of the NQEs are very clear this will still happen, I think they have to say that from a business point of view. And I don't mean that in any bad way, but at the end of the day, if you're a business, you have to try and run your business moving forward. Otherwise, no one is for 1 minute going to get certified. But the way things are looking, it's as uncertain today as it was a year ago, and that's the crazy situation. It's not only delayed because of a virus, it might not happen at all because of politicians, you know. So Scoopman has done his COFC on Friday. But he's okay, he's in Europe, I think, so you're fine. Are you in Europe, Scoopman?
He's in the UK, isn't he?
No, he's in the UK. I'm getting it wrong. Sorry. You mad?
Well, no. For you're from Wales. That is like Europe, really. It's east of you, so you know it would be like. So the Grant Shapps, that MP that you mentioned there, unveiled the delivery drone trial from 1974 that's happening between Southampton and the Isle of Wight, with that huge twin-engine G-registered traditional thing, which is a very conventional machine to be flying in order to satisfy the regulator and get some trials done. And I hope they do. I hope they do more than 1 or 2 flights. I hope it's not just we did this flight. I hope while the airspace is a lot quieter between Southampton and the Isle of Wight, which I think is about 6 or 7 miles across the sea or something, isn't it? I think I can't.
Yeah,
it's not too far, is it?
No.
And 200 kilo payload, so that's quite meaningful. But they must crank some hours in. I want to see 1,000 hours there, not one flight. Look, we did it! Hurrah, hurrah! Everyone go home now.
Everyone for beers and biscuits. It's going to be interesting. You know, from a commercial operator's point of view, we're all shut down. Well, we're not all shut down. Technically, we can operate. I'm interested. I've had 1 or 2 inquiries.
Yes, in Europe, even with all the shutdowns, commercial operations have been going.
Yeah, but some are continuing. Obviously, I'm currently a PFCO holder, so I have to renew that. I still don't like the fact that at some point I'm going to have to do the GVC, and I don't really see why the PFCO can't be converted into a GVC, but that's an argument for when I really get on my soapbox and we know more about it. But for the guys who haven't got a PFCO, the COFC is an interesting thing. It's just there's no aircraft to really take advantage of that yet, and we're probably going to see them in probably 12 plus months. That's if we're involved at all, and by then Grant Shapps has pulled us out, and we God knows where we'll be.
And Bruce, you're doing some commercial flying, I think, at the moment. That's something you have to do now, isn't it?
Yes. I've been flying totally commercially, because then there's no ambiguity, there's no doubt. And in New Zealand, you can fly commercially under Part 101. You don't need a special certification or a course or a ops manual or anything. You've got the freedom to fly commercially, even flying under hobby regulations, which is great.
Yes.
Yes.
As if you've got time. You've got time. We've got to bug out. So we better let you go, haven't we?
About 10 minutes.
All right. Okay. Cool. All right. I didn't see that. They don't turn the messages. The chat messages don't come in. So I reached out to your Civil Aviation Authority. You've reached out to your Civil Aviation Authority, and both of us, it's taken so much time to respond to them because we've had such comprehensive replies from and responses from them. How are you getting on with your reply, Bruce?
Well, as you saw in my video, I basically offered them a right to reply, to redress the situation, to answer some questions, to put their point of view. I have had no response yet, so I guess that my presentation was a fair and reasonable representation of the facts, and there's nothing they can therefore add. I mean, you think if I got something wrong, they'd have been there to correct it, but they haven't. So what you see is what you get. And I have been pretty harsh on them, but I think it's fair and reasonable. I mean, regulators are known to be pretty harsh on the people they regulate when they don't dot the I's and cross the T's. So I think it's only fair we hold them to the same standards of accountability. And there has been I had some kickback from within the hobby. People say, "Oh, you shouldn't be so mean to CAA, because we want to work with them later on." These people are so young; they're all young, they're naive, they don't understand that you don't earn points, you don't accumulate points with a bureaucrat. It's always when they start off, it's a level playing field. It doesn't matter what you've done before; they start anew, and they have their own set of rules and goals and requirements. And you don't earn brownie points with these people. You've got to go into everything right fresh. So you might as well start off as you intend to continue. And I'm hard-nosed. I must admit I'm hard-nosed. I expect that they will come along and say, we've got to have drone registration, and I'll say no. And there'll be a bit of a battle. I'll say, if you want drone registration, then you give us the same rules for sub 250 that Canada has. There's going to be a bargain. It's going to be confrontation.
You really have to change your tactics.
No, Louis.
No. I will explain you how to do it. Instead of videos, you just do PowerPoints. And then you'll get their attention.
Yeah. 3D renderings and PowerPoints. That's
No.
Right. Yeah.
You've got to learn politics.
I never thought about that.
Politics is a mug's game. I mean, I've seen so many people go and we've stroked this ego and we stroked that ego. The results are always the same. It's like you're fooling yourself if you think you're going to gain any traction. I am straight up front. People, what you see is what you get. I don't go around stroking people's egos. I don't have time for that. I'm too old. I'm going to die any moment. So I've got to do everything right now. And that's it. I mean, you get what you see is what you get with me. There's no need to try and, I don't expect my ego stroked. I'm not stroking anyone else's. I just deal with the facts, the evidence, and let's get an outcome that meets everybody's requirements. And it saves a lot of time.
Have you tried to get someone from the PR department of your CAA to come up with...
I did. That's exactly what I tried today. That's exactly what I tried.
No. Bruce and that PR people from there, they must have a communications department. So get them to be on one of your videos.
Well, that's what I've offered. I've said, come along. I'm happy to have a video conference over the internet. I'll stand 2 meters away from my screen for the social distancing, and we'll just discuss the issue. Maybe do a live stream. People can chime in and ask questions, because obviously they've lost a bit of credibility at the moment. The respect of the
Sorry, do you have a civil organization? Do you have
it's a government.
They don't do much?
Government department.
So no, I mean in Canada we have almost like an AUVSI, so basically a civil organized like a drone operator association of the sort that acts as the medium between operators and regulation. And we've been running actually monthly webinars. We host their monthly webinars, and we've been actually getting Transport Canada representatives on the monthly webinars as well as members. So I mean they don't really go on live broadcast on YouTube with us, but they do run the monthly webinars, and it's recorded afterwards, so it does get released afterwards. So I find it's easier when you have kind of a centralized organization. All the operators get together, and then that act as almost the communication with the government.
Yeah, I think the problem there is that the commercial side of things is well organized, and they salute and whatever as necessary to maintain their position, but it is the people they need to deal with are the people who are the problem element, which is the recreational drone users who don't have a clue. They buy it from a high street store and go out and make a nuisance of themselves. These are the people that CAA need to be in control of, because they're the ones that produce most of the complaints. And there's nobody representing them. They're just a bunch of individuals. So in that respect, I have been fronting up as the representative of that group. What are you doing, Gary?
Don't they know how important you are? You have a Wikipedia profile. You exist, Bruce. You are a celebrity in your country. They have no right.
Notorious.
Did you notice there was cruise missile written down there as well? Yeah. But no, look, how can they refuse you to sit down and talk to the most famous drone pilot?
They don't ever refuse. They just don't answer. It's very different. Refusing and not answering are two different things.
You must be the most famous drone-related person in your country, Bruce.
I would think so, but I mean that doesn't count for much. Yeah, no, but
it should, in the sense of they're in the industry. You're the most, you're in the industry. Therefore, how can those two parts not come together and talk?
Exactly. I'm trying to provide them with a conduit to the audience that they cannot otherwise reach. They put a video up on YouTube and they get 100 views, and they think they're doing well. I have a connection to the biggest problem sector of the aviation community, which is the recreational drone user without a clue. And there are some out there. Most of them are really good, but there are a few. So these are the community they need to be interacting with, and they don't have a good mechanism for doing it. They use this air share. They're using this air share. Oh, come and register your drone flights with us. But seriously, that is just a method of squeezing another UTM company into the market. It's terrible. I think I sent the video out on Twitter. They are just looking to monetize our airspace. I'm not having it.
And on Twitter, you drop that in now. You and on Twitter, yeah.
I've got a couple of followers. It's great.
Yifei, how are you doing on time? We're very rude at letting people bug out when they have to. Are you okay for time?
I do have to go. Sorry, I've had a super early day.
Cool. Well, thank you. You have. Thank you very, very much for joining us and bringing us your very, very good show and tell. So far, you've been the best show and tell we've had for a very long time. So,
thank you. Well, it's definitely been fun. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, look after yourselves over there. Take
care.
Bye.
I had to set an alarm for 2:30 a.m. to get up for that damn launch.
What else you got to do?
What else you got to do? Yeah.
I'm trying to find if I got anything new for show and tell. I could.
Don't you have a VCR that you could record that and see?
VCR?
What's a VCR? VCR? Is that the one with the little thing on the side for putting the coal in?
Blinking light.
It's a big wax drum, isn't it? And,
is it a wax cylinder with a needle or something?
Yeah,
is
exactly.
I woke up to order the Mavic Mini because I wanted to be order one. I actually ordered two and then cancelled both orders and ordered one again. So
you're going to get the old one, the one that nobody will want because it doesn't have the ADS-B. Why didn't you order from the US site and get a US one?
Yeah, that would have probably been a good idea, but no. I do have some DJI credit I must burn out. To be honest, I'm only ordering this one. Probably if I open the box, I haven't decided. I might be doing someone a great deal on a brand new Mavic Air 2.
I can't see a stampede to them, I'll tell you that.
No, I agree. And that's why I dropped my order from 2 to 1. That's the exact reason I did it, Bruce, because I woke up, I put an order for 2 in, and I then went back to bed, and I woke up this morning and looked at the numbers of views on the videos, and yes, it was a strange time for the launch, but the excitement levels were lower than I was comfortable with to put that investment in.
The world's not really in a, let me rush out and buy a new drone space, is it?
No, end of the day, the Mavic Mini is just an evolution. It's not anything revolutionary or surprising like the Mavic originally was. So, more of us.
You think people sitting at home would want something to break the boredom, say, "Whoa, the new Mavic Mini out! Let's go and look at it." No, it's going to be.
Have you seen someone rushing to buy the newest iPhones? No, come on. No. It's already a commodity. So the DJI drones are becoming a commodity. I bet when, for instance, Skydio decides to release in Europe, it will be a completely different story. Because it's different, quite different.
Is this letting some of the air out of the drone balloon now, though, this current crisis? And
I think it's let the air out of everything. I think we said this earlier, didn't we, off air, Gary? Has the world changed in the sense of, have we all realized that we don't need to be going out and buying stupid stuff that we're only going to use now and again? Are we all going to go back very quickly to the way we were and consumerism and that? No, and there is, if he's just bought it already. I'll be honest, I've spent a fortune since I've been locked in. I've bought a new printer, 200 quid's worth of filament and a load of stuff. So actually, I'm as bad as everyone else. But
we're not allowed delivery here. So deliveries are not allowed. So
it's the same here. I went to the post office this morning. There's a package in my post office box. It doesn't fit in the box. So I have to wait 2 weeks because they're not answering the bell for the period of the rest of this level 3 lockdown?
They've got it pretty good over here. What happens is we have some courier companies, they message you to say they're en route. It says when he's turning up. And what they do now is they'll message you to say they're here. And if you go outside, they'll put the parcel on the path, take a picture of you and your parcel, and then go. And they're still delivering.
That's going to be a rubbish. That's going to be a rubbish photo album, isn't it? Men and their parcels, or men and women and their parcels, a coffee table book. It's going to be rubbish, that is.
But did you see that little wheelie drone in the UK that's delivering stuff around?
Yeah, the Milton Keynes. Yeah. And they're real, and they've been there, and they were there before this.
Yeah.
But the thing is, Milton Keynes, as we've said it before, the huge advantage. It was made in the 60s and 70s, and it was made with people in mind. And there are walkways and underpasses, overpasses, wombling free. That people you don't need to. Pedestrians don't have to cross roads in Milton Keynes, so there's an built infrastructure. So it's probably one of the world's most perfect cities for such things.
It's kind of like hiring old people with mobility scooters to do your Uber Eats, isn't it?
Yeah. It is interesting, I don't know. I think it will sell well. I don't think there's any question on that. I think it will sell well. I just don't, until the lockdown lifts, it's hard to think of many people having a lot of money to spend. And I think that's Autel's big problem. DJI have come in and made a great offer for $799. And if you've got some money in your pocket, then $799 sounds a lot better than $1,200. But
do you think it's going to be really hit with a double whammy? Because first of all, you've got market saturation. I think most people that wanted to buy a drone have got a drone, so it has to be really, really impressive to make them trade up. And then you've got this whole thing where we're going into this massive depression because everyone's lost their jobs and money's short, and the whole world economy is wound down to an idle. There won't be much in the way of disposable income. So, and also that means there'll be a lot of second-hand drones on the market. So anyone that does want to buy a drone is going to have a steal when they go on eBay. There's going to be all these fancy drones for sale because people need to sell them to pay the rent. I think new drone sales are going to be in a bit of a doldrums for a while.
Yeah.
Well, they've lined up their Christmas drone, haven't they? And they can keep the powder dry on any new stuff for next year, and they've got their new thing for Christmas. If you've got to have a new toy, and that'll do for this year.
No,
and just pull the rug from underneath Autel.
I've been seeing on the auction sites almost new 2 months old, 3 months old, 5 months old because of the Christmas fever drone, DJI mostly drones on some quite interesting prices. If I was on the market to buy a Mavic 2 Pro, I could get it for 60% of the current price with 2 hours.
There were already big price cuts in North America for them anyway. And UAV Shed said, build your own with Archipilot, etc. I agree, but that's a tiny part of the market, really, I suppose. So there was the deliveries to the Isle of Wight. There's Bruce's yet another fight with the New Zealand CAA. but the interesting, I think, the most interesting about that New Zealand thing is the fact that the wording was on somebody's table. It was lying around. They'd been thinking about those sentences. They didn't arrive there by magic. And that wording we've seen around the world. We've seen regulators drop the odd bit of wording into documents and go, "Oh no, we didn't. No, that's not what we meant." But it's been sat on a table, so they've been thinking about it. I thought that was the most interesting
on a different note, and remembering the issue that there was with Jumper and Free Sky a couple of months ago, have you guys noticed what Banggood has put it front and center on their promos?
No, but I know that Jumper's released a new protocol for the version 2. Whatever of the D16.
No, it's not the Jumper is from that sister company of Jumper. So it's Jumper 2 is a Jumper 16 Pro or whatever it is, but it's not made by Jumper.
Yeah, I'm aware that radio is coming out. I was supposed to get one, but this is the whole COVID thing going on at the moment. I haven't got a review sample.
It's quite interesting to see all this explosion of new radios coming up right now. And after all that,
just before nobody can use them.
No. Not only that, the FreeSky, that's, come on, have a good presence of the market, is getting that erosion of with jumper and with this new one. And it's interesting to see that these things are happening right now on other parts of the consumer market, because, come on, one of these radios for the sale price was around $100. So, come on, it's a capable radio for $100. I still remember how much I did pay for my DX9. So
too much.
Yeah.
The thing is that everyone's got radios now. Why would you buy a new radio? I don't know, unless you're just getting into the hobby. And I think most people are not going to be looking at taking up new hobbies for some time. So it's going to be difficult times for people trying to sell up on a radio, because I've got so many, I don't use half of them, and I wouldn't be buying another radio at this point in time. They're sending me some to review. But
come on. If it has a brand new LCD that you can see on the field.
I don't care. I use my oldest radios the most because I'm comfortable with them and they've worn to fit my hands. But one thing that I noticed this week too, if you're using iNav on a multi-rotor, Pavel Shapalsky, or whatever his name is, he put an interesting video up in respect to they will fall out of the sky if you don't have some of the timing set up, because there's a latency produced by the I2C bus that causes the motor with D-shot to stop spinning. So you can be flying along and they just fall out of the sky. And he gives some very useful tips for setting up to make sure that he doesn't say it will stop that. He says it makes it much less likely that will happen.
so why have iNav not fixed this then?
They can't. It's a hardware restriction. It's a hardware limitation, because the magnetometer has quite a low slow response. So while it's reading the magnetometer, it can't service the D-shot on the motors. And if the D-shot on the motors doesn't get a packet in time, the ESCs just say, oh, we're landing now.
Yeah, we're landing.
So because when you turn the magnetometer on, if you've got magnetometer and GPS, if the timing is wrong, then it just produces too much of a delay between D-shot packets and the whole thing falls down. So he has a number of ways of working around it, reducing PID loop and everything.
But Ardra don't have this issue.
But you don't run the cycles at whatever.
Yeah, you're not running an 8 kilohertz PID loop with an Ardra thing. So he says drop the PID loop rate down and things, and but he says it will affect all. Anything that uses D-shot and uses, and we're talking about the cheap Chinese boards too. We're not talking about a cube or anything like that.
So. No, but the thing is, even you start getting the issues on timing and lost packets, and on a protocol so specific like D-shot that requires everything to be in order. That's expected, because, for instance, new Ian are so much fan of CAN bus. You can saturate very easily a CAN bus with C telemetry. So it's physics. You cannot stuck a river on a hose. But
it's a pipeline.
And it's going to be. I suggested to Pavel, why doesn't someone make a board with a tiny little 8-bit processor simply to buffer or to get the mag contents and then set it on at a higher rate? And I'm sure that eventually that'll happen, because you're looking at like a 20-cent part to improve that situation.
Yeah.
Discuss the real megapixel level. 48 megapixels marketing hype.
Yes.
Oh well, now she's gone.
It's the same as the Autel. It's the same sensor. It's using the quad Bayer filter, so it technically has 48 million pixels, but it still has the same quad Bayer layout as a 12 megapixel sensor. So there is in effect 48 million pixels, but it's reading each color site 4 times. So it is and it isn't, and it's not true 48 megapixel. But to be fair to DJI, they are not marketing it as 8K, and it's the same as that phone he's got there. Probably, if that's an Android, it looks like it. It's the same.
I can see me.
That's the Terminator phone. So
I can see my house from here.
It isn't true. It isn't true 48 megapixel like a Sony A7R4, for instance. I think we'd all be jumping for one if it was.
Yeah. And then you'll have to wait for 2 minutes for each picture to come up.
It's but no, to be fair to DJI, they are not pushing the marketing nonsense as much as Autel.
No, come on. what's the latest rush? The latest announcement I've seen was from Samsung, saying that the next one is going to be a 600 megapixel sensor.
Gorgon stare.
So I'm waiting for the 108 megapixels to become available.
It's the megahertz war, isn't it? We've all seen it. We saw it for years. Anyone who's been involved in PCs, it's I've got 400 now. It's 440, 430, and and in the end, what they'll do is they'll add 2 sensors or 4 sensors. So by the end of it, we'll end up like the modern computer chips with 18 sensors and 15 cores or whatever.
No, but the thing is, if you compare what a drone is these days, is one of these with the propellers. It's basically the calculation capacity of these guys are quite able to fly a drone these days. Come on, most of the time.
Do you remember seeing that thing where some guy stuck 4 little motors on a smartphone?
It was flying around. Yeah. Chris, I got to shoot with the GFX 100, and it blew my mind. So he'll know what I mean by that. He's on about 50 megapixels. Yeah, those big pixel cameras are amazing. They are very, very.
Have you two started your camera channel yet?
No,
we haven't. One thing with lots of pixels though is that your read rates tend to be limited, so you get more things like the rolling shutter effect where verticals become horizontal if you're panning and things.
I thought it was just the way you stood.
Come on.
No. I'm inclined to do that sometimes.
Everybody that goes that size goes to global shutter. Come on.
Is the new Mavic Air global shutter?
No.
No.
As far as I'm aware.
There you go. There's not many with global shutter, is there? I mean, most of them just.
The
Phantom 4 Pro.
Pro 2.
It's the only 2 cameras. That's the only piece of drone equipment I've got that goes up in value, not down, is that camera. Because you can't get them. So.
But this will be a downside to the 8 megabit sensors or the 8 megabit things, that they will be more prone to rolling shutter effects, I think, unless they go global shutter, and that will be so expensive.
Yeah, that's what gives DJI the problems with supplying the models. That it was only one, and that's why it wasn't available for some time because of the lens issues. But yeah, it's these cameras. They're all fighting marketing. 48 megapixel seems to be the new term everyone wants to use. Yeah,
they had to do it, didn't they? Because Autel or Dust will say, "Well, look, we're 48 and 42 or whatever," So they had to do it.
No, but come on, even so, come on. If you look at 48 megapixels was 2019 phones, so they're reusing the spare sensors from 2019. So the next step will be the 108 megapixel sensors on drone next year.
No. What's going to happen is someone will bring out a drone with a 0.048 gigapixel sensor.
Yes. There you are.
The marketing department will say, "Yes, we're into gigapixels now."
Gigapixels. Right. Yeah. Glitsky's saying, remember some guys programming a phone to output PPM from the audio jack. I remember that as well. I'm having to think back hard about that. I don't think it's happening anymore, but I do remember that. So can anyone enlighten me some more? I can't remember who did it now, but I remember seeing it happening. No one's going to.
If someone wants to go that route that has a USB-C port, you can start controlling external devices. So
you can, but I can also keep that quadcopter hovering with a $30 flight controller, not a $2,000 phone.
Yeah,
but anyway,
Android software is decidedly non-deterministic in terms of its processing. You can't get deterministic responses to certain things.
No, and it's running Android, so Android and timekeeping is quite a challenge, just to say the least.
But you're right. I hear what you're saying about the processing power and all the sensors and the camera. Everything is there in one thing. I mean, the first camera I used to fly, my Nokia N95, I think it was. That was my first airborne camera. But yeah, it's.
Funny enough, Louis, I was talking about person. I was testing the Lua scripts this week. I've begun to have a play. Had a few issues, but getting there slowly. But it just shows, now we've got autopilots that can run scripts alongside the in between the bits it doesn't need to be able to run the flight stack, and that's impressive alone, isn't it?
Even today on the autopilot forum, there was a gentleman that wanted to have resume missions, and I told him, you can do that with the scripts if you run it on the script on the drone. So some of the features that people are beginning to ask to be native can be easily solved with a Lua script running on the drone.
Yep.
So I believe, and that was part of the intention of having the Lua scripts on autopilot, is to have the newer features implemented as scripts. We have, I don't remember how many different flight modes, but
it's a lot now, isn't it? It's
stupid.
Because just like the flipping processor wars and things like that, it's switch wars on radios, isn't it? People love having, if you've got 50 switches on your radio, you must have 50 actions programmed on each of those switch, or different actions on each switch. Then you must forget what you've put there and then crash in some spectacular fashion.
No.
Because that one wasn't down, that one wasn't up, this wasn't pointed this way, and that rotate, that one. Now, come on, Louis, people do that. And they say, but all I did was switch this to this, that to the other, and this to this. It's like, just keep it simple, man.
Don't get me started on support issues on the autopilot forum. But no, the thing is, these days, some of the flight modes that we have on autopilot can easily be replaced by some scripting.
Sure.
It's something that at autopilot we'll have to look at in the future. If it is worthwhile to remove them as code and have them as options on as scripts to run when needed. But come on, also on autopilot, the code is growing, the CPUs are getting more capable, and we are not still touching. Come on, we don't use the newer H7 CPUs efficiently. We are running exactly the same code as we are running on the F4 CPUs. So why? And people say, why do we need such a powerful CPU? The future is there, but currently we will be using that in the future. Not now, but we will be using that because we have lots of things, and some of the things have to go away because they're just there adding weight to the code base.
Yeah, that is the only trouble with filling up with code. The whole aircraft does get that bit heavier, and it is always a worry.
Only if you use more ones than zeros.
Yeah.
Of course. Oh, yes. So if you just use the zeros, then you. Of course.
But you've got to make sure you put the zeros in the right order because you can't just lay them next to each other. You've got to move them around in order.
Then you have a problem of CG because then it will be too tail heavy, Bruce.
Yeah.
My drones don't have tails.
Chris has asked another question, probably there for Ian. Does the Air 2 fly using the smart controller? That's such a pleasant.
It will, not today, but they have said it will come. But don't make any purchasing decisions based on something DJI say will happen. Wait until it does happen.
Like two of them in the early hours of the morning.
Well, that's when you're more likely to get ADS-B as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, they have said it's coming, but not today. I'm not sure what's going to happen on that because technically the smart controller can only support 32-bit Android. And the current Fly app is 64-bit only, but that only means they've got to recompile it for 32, which is not a bit. It's a click of a box, as I understand it. So,
Oh, what's this for?
I don't know.
Well, that time in lockdown has taken its toll on Louis.
It's more or less the same as just, come on, compiling for MS-DOS. You just put a click on the compiler and it will compile to Windows.
It's easy.
Before.
How hard can it be?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, don't base any purchasing decisions on promises that may never happen, though. Warnings that should be number one warning for drone manufacturers. Period.
Gretzky in the comments are making a fair point there that you've got to be careful of your ones and noughts falling out if you fly inverted. Yeah, that's true. That's why not many Phantoms fly inverted because they're not very good at containing the ones and noughts.
Well, I've started making sure I count the electrons in the batteries as well before I fit them, just to make sure.
What was that thing people were telling people to do? Shake the batteries, wasn't it?
Yeah, to make sure all the electrons don't stick together. Yeah.
I meant to ask Yifei whether that 570 grams was charged or not.
Yeah.
Yes.
But Gary, if you don't shake the battery to make sure all the electrons are loose, how are you going to get the power out of it? But you've got to make sure there's not too many. If there's too many, there's not enough space in the battery and they don't come out.
But have you seen the interesting phenomenon with alkaline cells? If you drop them and they bounce, you can determine the charge state.
Yeah.
Honest, it's true. Yeah, the height of the bounce is an indicator of the charge state.
Yeah, it's true.
We should be selling the calibrated bounce stick.
If your drone bounces, the battery was flat.
Right. So what have we got? How high should it bounce, Bruce? There we go.
You'll have to talk to Louis. I'm not an expert in bouncing drones.
No. That's
usually
kilometers high.
I drop and break everything else. I fixed my remote, so sod you all. So mostly.
Well, I think fixed.
Well, you broke
is a better way to say.
Hey, Bruce, it bloody works, and it almost works perfectly. To be fair, if I had
some of those switches almost work too.
I couldn't believe I crossed the ground with the hot glue, and it's one of those things. When you've done it, you sort of go. That's never coming off again, is it? Let's be honest.
I just heat it up with a hot air gun; it'll come off.
To be fair, it was I thought at least I got it fixed. It's doable, and it was one of those things that.
Yeah, and if you send it in for repair, no one will ever notice the tiny little modification you've made.
Well, the way I looked at it is this:
do eBay. It's the right time to go on eBay.
Yeah, get rid of it quick.
Enhanced wiring loom. Yes, selling feature.
The reason I did it was. It would have cost me probably about £100 to repair with DJI plus around, I think, by the time I looked at the repair charges and carriage. So the decision I made was it's 230 new, so I'm paying half of the cost out. So it was at that stage of I've only got £120 to lose, and whilst I don't want to lose £120, I could have always parted the rest of it out, or parted it out at all if I couldn't do anything.
And he got to make a video which paid for his new Lamborghini.
We're there. Should we have a look at how much that video has made? Don't even go making money on videos. We don't make money on videos on these channels. That's not how we work.
My crash video is doing good. That's getting lots of views anyway.
I was going to ask you, how well's that going?
It's over 100,000 at the moment, I think.
I'll be honest, that's the only reason I got up to order. I have DJI credit from 4 years. I've had it for 4 years. I've kept it that long. I've been building it, and I had been building it, and I just need to get it down now because I'm going to lose it if anyone doesn't know. DJI put a time limit on credit now, so it only lasts.
They always do.
For the repair.
You're sorry?
Couldn't you use the DJI for the repair now?
No. Only product. So I need to clear it down. It's a hang up from the old days where the affiliate scheme used to be worth being, used to actually do something.
You see, Amazon's crashed their affiliate commissions too in the USA. Everyone's having trouble with that.
Yeah.
Oh, really? What, they've reduced the amounts they're paying out?
Yeah, from 8 to 3% in some cases. So it's a massive drop, and people are bitching all over the place.
It is,
as social media influencers are in trouble because we're losing so much money. But obviously, when you reach the point we're at, that it's so much money that it's hard. You don't really notice.
You don't notice when you lose 50% of your income when it's a pound.
No.
It's
A pound.
A pound.
A pound.
It is interesting. It's funny. I learned a lot from Bruce on this as well, because at least Bruce has been following it for much longer than I have, and actually I took something Bruce told me to heart, in the sense of a lot of it is about volume. It's getting the numbers it comes with volume, and the more videos you got builds a stable platform over time and things like that. And it's interesting with these guys that you see these people who rush out to get 50, 60, 70, 80,000 subscribers, and they want it within 2-3 months, and then they're getting all of the. It's actually been interesting to see who was sent the Mavic Mini to review. That's one of the things I actually had a look at last night, of all of the channels that were sent one to review and were in just as a little interest, because I used to hear from DJI on that stuff, but I don't anymore. Because we're not target audience, as Bruce said with the FPV stuff. I've been lucky to test stuff over the years, but I don't, from that side of it, all of drones now go straight to the likes of iJustine, Casey Neistat. It's not even specific to the drone.
He did well for boosted boards, didn't he? Did old Casey? He saved them.
Yeah, yeah. He had the highest views on all the videos last night. Interestingly, he was over a million.
He never releases videos, does he now? So if he does release something, the world goes mad.
Yeah, he must have made an absolute fortune. He must have made an absolute.
Well, he made a fortune from CNN, because I think they gave him millions of dollars to try and shift him over to there, and that didn't work.
No,
but it's interesting that his influence wasn't enough to make boosted boards a success. That wasn't enough.
No.
And
if you want to make a fortune, you got to do the beauty vlog like Kylie Jenner. Was she $1 billion or something? 22 years old, she's worth over $1 billion because she sells makeup. Oh man!
But is that from YouTube or is that from selling makeup?
Well, selling makeup, but I mean, I think she's famous for being famous. She uses social media very, very well, and that's where the money comes from. She's just a celebrity.
No,
just like Ian.
It does make me laugh, because over the years you get so much crap on forums and stuff about people, you make money, and you just think, you don't make money. You do not make money involved in this industry. You might pay for some things, you might pay for something to be able to make another video or do something, but you barely I couldn't make a living out of this for 1 minute, and it still impresses me how Bruce does, and it's not as simple as making money. There's still a lot of time.
I was making money. Oh yeah, that's the easy way to do it.
The interesting thing is, there's always people out there. There's always people out there that go, "Oh, you're making money out of this," and blah blah blah. Like they say, you're making money. That's bad. But we'll go to the local hobby shop that makes money by selling us stuff. But we got to make the fact you make money by telling us stuff. Well, we can't have that. It's like it's a bad thing for you to make money if you're on YouTube and you're in the hobby. I don't know why people think that.
No, it's weird, isn't it? And it's been very prevalent in this hobby. Very prevalent,
Because we all know each other. There's only half a dozen people. It's such a tiny market.
It's smaller every day.
It is. Definitely is.
Do we think FPV will be hitting this? Because that's been the big growth. Ignore DJI a minute, and we've got JB and Rotor Riot and all of that. That's where we've seen a lot of focus in the last 12 months. Do you think that's going to get curtailed?
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. I think FPV has already plateaued, and it's already been in a fairly level thing. But most of the people who started FPV are still doing it. I haven't seen many people actually just sell their gear up and move on, because it is quite addictive, and it is something you can have in the cupboard and you think, oh, let's go and relax, grab it, go and fly for a few minutes. So it's not something you have to commit a huge amount of time to maintain your proficiency and enjoy. So I think there may not be as much new stuff selling, but we'll still see people there. And I think that the whole world's going to slow down for the next 6 months or so. I don't think it'll be much longer. People are saying, it's going to be years before we recover. No, it won't. People just get on with getting on. And bloody flies in here. And things will... Hang on a minute. Time for a debugging session.
Mass media live on YouTube.
It's autumn. In the autumn, you get the tiny little house flies. I don't know where they come from, but they come in the morning. They're really slow, so you can run around whacking with the wife's genitals. But once they warm up, you've got to hit them with the fly spray. It's terrible.
But you've been back in the hangar this week. You've mowed the lawn and you've
mowed the grass. Yep. Emptied the mouse traps. I'm so pleased that I
go-karting blokes straight on the couch.
I was just observing that. But I'm so glad the Parkinson's has robbed me of my sense of smell, because when I went to the workshop after 4 weeks of not going, all the mouse traps were full, and I'm pretty sure they must have been pretty ripe. I couldn't tell, so it didn't worry me.
Oh, that's a happy thought.
We are due to some parts of the country are going to go to our first stage of relaxing. But I think I said last week they've called the army out, so we've got the entire army is out now, 73,000 troops on the street, and the curfew's being properly enforced between 8 at night and 5 in the morning. Plenty of rubber bullets are going around. So whilst it is slightly being reduced, it's still a lot tighter than it is over in the UK. And I think you're 3 or thereabouts, aren't you, Bruce? I think.
No, we've gone to level 3, which is basically what the UK and everyone else has been at until now. For example, now they've just reopened the fast food, Burger King and McDonald's. There were queues miles long. People have been deprived of their junk food for 4 weeks, and so they had to go out there and get a fix because they're going through cold turkey. That's not as fast food, is it? No, but they've had to go out there. So there've been massive queues at McDonald's and things to get stock up on burgers. And I'm thinking, really? Seriously, that's the one thing you've missed most.
That's the one thing you wanted. Yeah.
For me, it was just the wine.
We're not quite at that stage here. We're not open up McDonald's yet. We're still locked down, but probably another week. So
we have a big
until Monday or Tuesday, and then things will open up gradually here. But we always have McDonald's and Burger King and all that, and we always had home delivery of pizzas and all that. So we had huge queues to go to the supermarket, huge queues to go to any open shop. So because they would only accept X number of customers, so even if you go to the supermarket,
we had big queues at the supermarkets until the fast food shops opened. Now the supermarkets are empty. The queues are moved over to the McDonald's and KFC. So
there's the irony in it.
We've got quite a big restaurant chain here. If you ever come to South Africa on holiday, it's called Spur, and they're pretty reliable. So if you go anywhere, if you go to a different town here, and you think, you just need food, you go to a Spur. It's not fantastic, but it's reliable, and they've already said that they're not going to reopen until social distancing is completely gone from the scene, because we shut down in a week. Our shutdown happened in a week, a big shutdown. But in that week they said, "Whoa, restaurants stop already," and schools we went. But then so we went a week before. Schools and restaurants shut after a week after the first case happened here, and then the rest of the country shut a week after, like the entire everything. But schools, restaurants, bang, straight away, big gatherings, bang, 1 week and done. And they had such a drop, and it was such a pain in that 1 week. They said it's not worth opening, so they're not going to bother opening until all the social distancing has gone. It's because it's not worth their rent and things. So I think that's quite interesting. But we got lots of get rich quick schemes for drones here. Lots of people standing up. I was going to say when Yifei was here that what I've noticed is a lot of people. A lot of one of the entrants into the market is older blokes, obviously older than Bruce and I. Coming in, and Louis, and not a child like Ian, but older blokes from other businesses coming and saying, "Well, I see all these youngsters have been doing this for years. Well, we're going to do it better than them, and we're going to invest X million rand in this, that, and the other. And we're older, we know best, even though we're not from this industry. And we're going to show you youngsters how it's done." And it's I was thinking, and Bruce will probably know this. There's probably a point in every sort of business cycle, and whatever the trade where that happens, where there's people that are the groundbreaking folks, and it moves into stumbling around, and then there's people that think they know better arriving, trying to reinvent the wheel, because they are all saying things. Whenever they say things to me, it's like, well, no, that was done 10 years ago by this, or someone did that and that failed and this failed, but they're coming with a very definite attitude that they know best. And a lot of that's happened in the last couple of weeks. That was a bit of a rant. But is there a point in business, Bruce, where you get that sort of group, cohort of people?
There is, to a degree, as the industry is mature. But these people, if they think they know everything, they've probably been laid off from the local airspace regulator.
Yeah, quite possibly, yes.
It's not only that. It's mostly the way the kids are being taught on universities and the curricula they're given. They're constantly reinventing the same things over and over and over again. So there's very little incentive to go on uncharted territories. And some of the works that I see kids in universities doing are, stuff that is done in the open source business for years and years, and they are trying to reinvent the wheel every time. It's painful to see how static our teaching institutions get to some of the kids. There are very notable and very pleasant surprises on some universities, but most of the technical STEM courses are just repeating the same stuff over and over again. And it's painful, really painful, because when a kid comes up to you and tells you what he's working at university, you go, there's, let me check GitHub. Here you have your project. It's already been done 6 years ago. And that's one of the problems that I see mostly these days. And this Corona thing, just because universities are locked down, so kids are not doing anything. So these kinds of crazy projects, they pop up all over. And as usual, we have the PowerPoint jockeys that make excellent PowerPoints.
I hear that about the youngsters, but this is older blokes that are doing it, and there's a conference coming up, and somebody asked me to comment on it today, and I don't think they wanted me to say what I said. I just said I've never heard of any of these blokes that are all stood up there that are my age and older. I don't know who they are. And they're in this conference. Who the hell are they?
Yeah, but the groundbreakers, innovators have created a market, and the market is maturing. So that's when the business people, or people who don't understand a damn thing about the technology, but they understand the business principles. They've got the money. They know they can hire people that know what they don't know. They can move in, and especially at times like this with the COVID thing, there's going to be a lot of consolidation and rationalization within the industry, because people are going to go, you can buy businesses for a song after this because they're worth nothing, because they're cash poor. So these people are probably picking their moment. They can come in, they can buy all the expertise, the resources that they need, and they can become a fairly dominant force in the marketplace very quickly. They haven't had to waste their time developing a market. It's been done for them. They're very savvy people that tend to do this sort of thing.
That's exactly what it is, actually. Now you put it like that, that's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I get it now. Yeah, maybe that is what it is. But yeah, there is literally a drone conference coming up online, because it has to be, where I do not know. I do know, I'm lying. I know one person on the panel, and it's like, that's interesting. So where have all these other people got their expertise from, or their knowledge, or because I'm afraid for me, if somebody on the panel hasn't crashed a thing and told me he's made a mistake with a thing, or I've not seen him operating a thing, I don't really trust them. But that's just me. You must have crashed.
So you're telling me you don't trust regulators?
Yeah. Well, some of them. Well, yeah. No, some of them.
How many people making the rules up for this industry have actually been involved in the industry? How many of them actually flown a drone? How many hours they got on a drone? And how what's their background? I mean, do they even own a drone? Most of these people don't, and I find that really the wrong perspective to come from.
But then you can apply that across even to the manned side, because there's less of them have been involved in the manned side. And I'll say the story I've told 1,000 times on this. And when we all flew in Farnborough in 2010, the man that organised it was from the CAA, and he flew a flipping Spitfire in and displayed. And he was the man that did it. But he was a very accomplished display pilot who they brought in because he was known to be one of the dodgiest chaps around. So he was poacher turned gamekeeper in the CAA. So you couldn't really BS him because he knew the dodges you were going to come out with. But those sort of people are gone.
What you're saying is that CAA won't be contacting me for an interview. They'll be offering me a job.
Exactly. Well, no, I don't. Sadly, I don't think they will anymore, because I think they do want that young graduate who is reinventing the wheel yet again. And it's not necessary for them to have a deep aviation background, even if they're unsafe. But it's that sort of institutional knowledge. And I know when the original CAP 722 was crafted in the UK, several of them were actually aero modelers that were on the CAP 722 thing. And I know for a fact that they discussed, if we're not careful, we'll be banning paper aeroplanes. And so they really did think about it. And, and bureaucrats started getting involved. And as Greg's saying there, Tuxedo was never flown one or invited commercial officers to speak. Yeah. But then you get, I thought where you were going there before I read it was, then you get commercial operators and bigger commercial operators in there stirring the pot and causing trouble and wanting to pull the rug from under their opposition. So it's a very different landscape to when this was all being spoken about sort of 10, 15 years ago. It's a very, very different feel to regulators to me. That was a long rant.
Almost the same as when you vote for the parliament, most of the guys that you vote don't have a deep technical knowledge of the subjects that will be discussed on the parliament. Some gather information from people that do, but most don't. And
True.
It's the same thing here. So you get a guy with a management degree that can coordinate a team or not. Depends on the orders that he's given from above. That's the same thing on every regulating body, be it a parliament or a CAA, FAA, whatever.
Yeah, it just feels like 10, 15 years ago, the regulators were a little more connected to aviation. But maybe that's just me. I don't know.
No, it's not just you. Here in New Zealand, I know I've spoken to a number of people who in recreational aviation, and they'd say, CAA used to fly into the airfield to do inspections and things, because they all had pilot's license. These days, they drive hundreds of kilometres in cars, spend a night in a motel, then come out in the morning, and then they go back to the motel and drive back. So they get charged for 3 days worth of time instead of half a day, because the CAA people, they can't fly anymore. They don't have pilot's licenses.
Yeah, it's a thorny subject for everyone all around the world, isn't it? And we'll go back to remembering and talking about that after the COVID thing's over. when it will return with a vengeance, and it will return with little bits of writing like you discovered there, Bruce, from the odd bit of paper here, the odd bit of paper there that's being subtly shoved in. I'm surprised they haven't pushed the trigger on remote ID in the States whilst this is going on.
As I said before, I think this is lining up that UTMs are now going to be really pushing hard, because the air traffic control around the world, with no planes to control, they must be laying staff off, and there must be, where do we get our revenues from? We can't charge anybody if we're not providing service. So I think the obvious thing is, let's get drones out there, because there's no human contact, and let's charge them. And I think we're going to see a massive push to pay to fly set up. I think that's going to be the real problem in the future. But I'm hoping that the drone industry is going to take advantage of what we've got now to push the boundaries. We can do BVS because there's nothing to bang into. And I hope that's not going to be wound back when things start improving. They'll say, okay, you guys with your drones, you've had a good time, but we've got airliners to move around now, so you're all grounded, or you've got to fly within, visual line of sight. Is that going to happen, or will we retain the
that's
freedoms
why I
that
want
we together?
that's why I want the thing in onto the Isle of Wight to go for it, because it's very hard. If you whack 1,000 hours in, it's very hard to then say, well, you know, it was safe for this 1,000 hours or 500 hours or even 100 hours. But I hope it's not like, and it flew to the island and came back. Hooray! You know, if you get 100 hours done, it's hard to walk back safety issues then if you haven't had any problems. But 1 or 2 flights, yeah. I don't know.
But Bruce, what, this is just not to tease you, what do you call the industry, the drone industry? What is a drone industry? Is it everyone that flies for money? Or is it the manufacturers? Or is it who is it?
It's like the aviation industry. It's all those things and more.
And
it's
more.
The lobbyists that convince politicians to do things as well.
And do you think that all those things generate enough economical power to be heard?
They could.
But
Some of them do. Some of them definitely do.
They've been held back by regulation to date. Regulation has been the thing that's held us back. If we were given free reign, I'm pretty sure you'd see a great, massive expense in the whole industry if we didn't have to be all compliant with all these. I mean, how much time is Ian going to have to spend writing his ops manual, which is completely lost time to any kind of productivity in his business? If we can make it more efficient, then the profits come along, and we can do things that we can't do now. Then it becomes a viable industry.
But the thing is, isn't the problem of the drone industry that the biggest player does not play with the same rules? So you don't have strong US industry provider, and most of, let's say, the manufacturers are all based in China.
Well, that's just manufacturers. That's just one segment of the industry, isn't it? Yeah. And also, you've got Skydio. It's changing. Skydio's in the USA. You've got other companies setting up. China has been they've paved the road, but they have created a path that others can follow, and it'll happen.
I'm not so sure, because the problem with all this, the problem is it's too many interests playing around, trying to be relevant in the industry. So there's not a cohesion either international or even nationally, because you have the FPV community, and then you have the professionals community, and then you have the recreational community, and then you have, no manufacturers in Portugal, no drone manufacturers in New Zealand, besides the limited edition ones both in New Zealand and Portugal. No UK manufacturers, so we are limping. So that's a problem, that there is no such thing as one way of the entire industry coming together.
Remember, this is a nascent industry. Look at the flight trials in the UK. That's not a DJI; it's a fixed wing drone that's being used for that. A lot of the future of the drone industry is fixed wing drones. It's pilotless freight aircraft, things like that. We think of drones, Phantom 4, Mavic. No, that's nothing. That's the real drone industry is going to be man-sized aircraft without pilots.
It's going to be Caravan C208s, all automated, all the FedEx ones.
A completely new can of worms when you put people on a drone.
No, we're not carrying people. We're saying it's otherwise the same size as a manned aircraft, but it is fully automated. Carrying freight, carrying medical supplies, whatever. It's not people up there just taking photos with drones like we do now. That's just a tiny, tiny piece of what will become a very large industry. The most of it will be replacing, wherever possible, replacing pilots with flight controllers.
That won't come from our side of the industry. That will come from the Airbuses and the Boeings of the world.
I think I disagree with you there, Louis. I think I disagree. I think the Airbuses and stuff. Well, because Airbus is about to go bust. If you read some of the things they're saying, along with Boeing. So
I think one of the two or the two.
Sorry,
it was Airbus or Boeing.
Both now. Both.
Yeah.
Both.
Where these are the guys that are. Come on. Is it true or not that the A380 can land by itself, right? Or some of the Boeings also can land by themselves and can take off by themselves. So they're almost fully automated. They're at what? Stage 1 of the automation process, or stage 2, let's say.
Yeah, they have a. Don't they have a pilot and a dog, and the pilot is there to feed the dog, and the dog's there to stop the pilot from playing with the controls? But the thing is that you say, we're not part of the industry, but we are, because look at what Tesla has done to the auto industry. You go back 10 years, you say no one can usurp Ford or General Motors, but Tesla comes along, creates a new market, and suddenly it is probably the number one auto player in the market at the moment, because they've changed the face of the industry, and drones are changing the face of the aviation industry. We're talking about the drone industry. It is going to become the aviation industry.
But that's exactly what I'm saying, because the clear leader of the drones is a Chinese company.
But I don't think Boeing and Airbus can react fast enough. I think it will. I think it might come from Cessna. It's not going to come from Boeing and Airbus. It might come from Cessna or that sort of size company, but they've got to be whoever it is has got to be pretty agile about what they're doing and able to move quickly without going through 50. Imagine trying to get a decision through Boeing or Airbus. It's probably 200 meetings and 1,000 cups of coffee or something like that, and 1 million biscuits. But you probably could measure it. Anyway. Yeah, but you could probably measure it in the number of crates of biscuits you got to buy before you can make a decision. So I do think some of the bigger changes that in 100 years' time, people will say, wow, that was an amazing company. And I reckon it'll be a small company. I reckon our part of the industry is at 1903 it's probably about 1920. And the established players are horse and cart owners or big cruise liners, Titanic owners. And they don't quite know. They won't be able to be fast enough to go into the stuff that's coming. I'm sure of it. I didn't put that very well. Didn't put that well at all. I know what I meant in my head.
It'll be like the recording industry. When the internet came along, you had all the recording industry going, oh no, this is going to scuttle us. And of course, Apple, being a smart, innovative new tech company, said, let's do iTunes. And so they basically took over that whole market from the shipping of CDs and cassette tapes. iTunes came along and made it online, and then all the rest followed. But they upset the market dramatically.
So it's one of our viewers, or Ian, or you, or probably not Bruce, or not me. But no, it's somebody here. It is. There's somebody here, and one of those youngsters will have an original idea, and it might well be one of them.
To use the buzzword, it's disruptive technology.
Yeah. Have we got a PowerPoint about this?
So much disruptive technology is disruptive ideas.
Well, look at this trial thing on the Isle of Wight. It is as conventional as you could possibly get, but that has to be to satisfy the regulator. It's in a lot of ways quite disappointing. But as I say, if they manage to bang in 1,000 hours with it quick, then I'm down with it. If it's one flight, I'm less down with it.
And how's Zipline going?
Zipline's going tickety boo with thousands and thousands of flights with which something I didn't believe in at all. I thought it was a nonsense idea until I saw it in the flesh, spoke to him, I was like, oh, now I understand. When I saw the level of technology, and once I finally understood that owning the takeoff and landing is a fantastic thing because it gets rid of so many problems. Because I always thought that rail thing, I mean, how's that going to work in any old wind?
Hyperloop.
But when you see how fast it fires off the end of the thing, it doesn't matter what the wind's doing. That's going flying. It's either going flying or falling apart when it gets to the end.
So if you look at the Zipline, I mean, there's a technology that's proven, and when we see this drones being used during this current crisis to move stuff around, it could happen as quickly as that. Suddenly, people with money and influence, the people you're talking about at this drone conference thing, this online seminar, they go, wow, here is a solution, here's a problem, let's put them together and make some money. And suddenly, overnight, you've got a new force in the market that changes things.
But the guys from Zipline looked at the specific, so they had all the pieces together. They just needed a very specific use case where they could put all those pieces together, and that is disruptive thinking.
Yeah, and they have the advantage that they're not pitching 3D renderings and PowerPoints. They're pitching a product with a track record that's proven. And people with money don't want to invest in promises. They want to invest in realities. So they're the people that would attract the money, and that would catalyze this whole thing and make it a standard method of delivering stuff. That's where the drone deliveries come from an established thing. Someone will come in and just blow it, like electric cars. Elon Musk came along and said, "Oh, electric cars, they work. Okay, let's make them into a big thing," and he did.
I think it's time, gentlemen, for us to go, because Ian, he's struggling to stay awake there.
His eyes have glazed over.
I reckon. What do you think? Has he just bought another 2 of these things? What's he buying?
No.
Stocking up.
I'm reading some things.
Reading, goodness me!
Is it like Playboy and you only buy it for the articles?
It is. I mean, it is like that. Yeah, no, it does. I can't believe I set the alarm for that. But it says more about I ordered 2 and then cancelled 2 and ordered 1 again. So I had to order a couple of other stuff. I ordered a new FPV receiver. Forgot how expensive they were, Bruce.
FPV receiver
for the DJI system. They are scary money. Ear unit, yeah.
Yeah. You didn't get a Vista?
No, because I was ordering from DJI. They don't sell it on the site. Still waiting to find out what this nebula is as well, aren't we? We haven't heard any more about that.
No. I'm lucky I stocked up on the air units when they were cheap, so I've got a couple sitting there doing nothing.
I didn't do that.
And the most important thing we've done in this last 2 hours is stop Louis buying another tiny helicopter from China. We've
I've seen him with his phone. He's been on AliExpress with his phone.
That's what he's been on his phone.
He's holding it up. Yeah, he was making new purchases. Be a drone delivery any moment.
Do you actually? How well are those things flying? Because they all look very shiny and new, Louis. They don't look like you've used them.
No. Quite a few hours are already on this.
I don't believe it. If I'd have flown it, it'd be crashed by now.
Come on. And I have another one just like this that is being put to fly with Ardu pilots.
Excellent.
So that makes it a real challenge to get the smallest components there are. I already have some of the components. The Slowbolt from China is bringing the rest. So it's basically a very small flight controller, the tiniest GPS antenna.
Yes.
So then there'll be no fun flying. It'll be just like a drone. Why do you bother?
And a micro FPV camera and doing missions with this.
Yeah. All up, take off, weight 5 kilos.
No. Same flight time, around 5 to 7 minutes with a 1S battery. Come on, Bruce.
1S. That's amazing. That's amazing. That is amazing.
You just try balance charging that 1S battery and see how you get on.
I don't know. It's definitely going that way, dear viewer, wherever you are in the world. So he's mumbling already. Stay safe. Don't wake them up. Yeah. Wake up now. Wake up and go to bed, viewer. Be safe wherever you are. If you can fly, well, lucky you, and just be safe. We'll be here again 2100 GMT next week when we will be talking some COVID stuff. I already have a guest lined up, which is very unusual. Yeah, I know. It's amazing. So we'll see if that happens.
And CAA may have gotten back to you. We may have a CAA representative on the panel. You never know. Oh, porcine aviation. Look at that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That'll be happening, I'm sure. Okay, join us next week for our chat with the New Zealand CAA when they send their representative. Unlikely. Things that are most unlikely. Take care, everybody. See you next week. Be careful out there. Bye-bye. Cheers. Thanks, everyone. Cheers, guys.